Hello and welcome back to the Delve podcast. Previously on the pod, we talked about goals, needs, and values. And needs can be broken down even further. So we're going to talk more about the specifics of different kinds of needs today on the pod.
Yeah.
I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam, and here I am trying to interrupt you right from the start. I'm Adam. I'm the executive and clinical director at Dell Psychotherapy of Chicago. I'm so sorry, Allie.
You're just excited. You just want to
I'm
get going.
stoked.
Uh, here, with this podcast, we're not trying for fame here. We don't plan to run any ads, so it's very listener friendly. So, with that being said, we'd really appreciate if you spread the word with this podcast. Word of mouth is really all we have with this podcast. So, share it with at least one other person. We'd really appreciate it. Here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. If you're interested in a free consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And please do check out our blog on Substack at delvepsych.substack.com.
Do people still say stoked, or is that like the tubular of 2025?
I don't know that the kids these days are still saying stoked.
What do you think they say instead?
It, but I'm a millennial, so
yeah. I think we're past the stage where, like, for a while, weren't they saying that things were on fleek? Right?
Never did I think I would ever hear Adam say on fleek in my life.
That was a thing for a minute, right?
It was. Now, no. Yeah. I think now the kids these days say that people have Riz.
I thought even that was starting to float away.
I don't know. I'm not often around. What are we on now? Gen Alpha? Is that even younger than Gen Z?
I don't know. That sounds made up too.
No, I think that's real.
All right.
But fine. So yeah, it's how you know you're old is when there's 2 generations below your generation.
There you go. Okay, that's the cutoff. All right.
That's how you know.
Fair play.
Okay, so goals, needs, and values, a very, very important concept at Delve Psych here that we use to work with clients. And we can break down needs into 3 kinds of needs. So that's what we're talking about today. So where would you like to start, Adam?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, as a brief recap of the idea of goals, needs, and values. So we think of goals, needs, and values as separate from emotional reactions, wants, and proclivities or tendencies. And in general, you're probably more likely to live a life that feels balanced if, in general, you are consistently pursuing your goals, your needs, and your values, not your wants, emotional reactions, and tendencies. It's impossible to do that all the time. And the goal isn't to meet your goals. The goal is to pursue. So as long as you have something to kind of work toward, as long as you're kind of moving in the direction of or trying to embody the experience of the things that really represent your goals, your needs, and your values, then you're probably going to feel pretty balanced in life. Bad things will happen. You'll be upset, but you got a direction to go and a way to deal with it. So that's the broad overview. Anything that we should add to that?
No, yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation of it. Yeah, I think it's really important to just have those North Stars in mind. It gives you fuel, it gives you purpose. And again, it's not about the achievement of it, but it's about what it can do for you in the pursuit of those things. Having something to pursue, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but the needs category itself, I find people start to struggle with. I think it's difficult to explain. So in general, a need is something that you're going to require from the world in order to kind of feel balanced within yourself. If you do not have it, you'll feel off. If you cannot, acquire this thing, it's the most acquisition-y of all of them. If you don't have it right now, or you're not moving towards getting it, then you'll feel off as a human, either in a temporary way or in a broader way. But I think it's difficult to articulate because people will often say when we start trying to develop a goals, needs, values list, people will often start to say things that I think of as universal needs. So fundamental psychological needs. So this could be something like a need for sexual and physical safety, Everybody needs that. So we don't necessarily need to write it on your list. Belonging to a group, everybody needs that. So you don't necessarily need to write that on your list at first blush. So these kind of foundational quotidian needs, if you will, are things that we don't necessarily need to focus a lot of our attention on unless it fluctuates into saliency, it fluctuates into existence, that suddenly we do not have that right now. It's if you aren't feeling a sense of belonging, you will feel off. That becomes relevant to psychotherapy and it becomes relevant to mental health because one of your foundational needs isn't met. Financial security. If suddenly your financial security is jeopardized, well, then that fluctuates into the present context as a very important thing, and you're going to have to focus on that. But it's not as helpful to list all of these out. I mean, as an academic exercise, I think it'd be great to do sometime, but generally speaking, they're not going to be relevant because you have them the majority of the time. When you don't, you'll feel it and you'll be able to name it. If I don't have a place to live, if I don't have food to eat, well, then yeah, that's going to be the topic that we focus on.
Right. So something like love, maybe not put that under your needs list because it seems kind of obvious.
Well, even that one's kind of interesting. So what kind of love do we mean?
Because I could break that down further to like familial love, platonic love, romantic love. I suppose.
Exactly. And even then, what do we want the love to do exactly? It would probably be things like, maintain consistent connection, make sure that we've got a sense of belonging to a community or another group, make sure that we have a sense of purpose or something of that nature. Do we need love? I can imagine that there are some people who either need it and choose not to pursue it, or don't need it. Maybe they don't need it. I'm thinking about, again, that person that's living in the woods 100 miles north of Saskatoon and doesn't ever interact with society and doesn't want anybody to bother them. Either that person doesn't need love, or they do need it and they choose to suppress that hard.
Right. Or they're really the exception to the rule. I don't know. I feel like love makes the world go round. So
yeah. But we're softies, you and I,
True. Okay, so then if we're not putting down these sort of like general, like obvious needs that most people need in order to function, then what are we putting down on this?
Well, I have
column?
one more category of what not to talk about first.
Okay.
So
Great.
I think of these as the Sims needs. It's things, the transient needs, the things that come up on their own and you have to deal with them. So did you ever play The Sims?
Oh, I loved The Sims, yes.
Yeah. So what happened if your Sim got too sleepy?
If they got too sleepy, I'm trying to remember, would they just like pass out anywhere?
Yeah, in the middle of the kitchen.
In the middle of, yeah.
What happened if they needed to use the bathroom really badly and they were in the middle of a conversation?
Yeah, they would just soil themselves anywhere.
Yeah. So the Sims needs, you almost have kind of a meter on them, and at some point the meter will kind of like either deplete or get too full or whatever else, and you got to deal with it. So these are kind of transient needs. If we don't consider them as we're making decisions, then you're going to have problems in life. So if I were to present to you the model of you should pursue your goals, needs, and values all the time, and we excluded transient needs, well, then don't sleep. But that's not healthy.
Right.
And so at some point, your transient needs to eat, to sleep, to use the bathroom, you could think of them as something of the like base level Maslowian needs. Those will fluctuate into importance and you need to deal with them in the moment. And the other things probably need to take a back seat. So it's an important part of the decision making, right? So you could see how this needs component, as we're making decisions, if one of our fundamental psychological needs isn't being met, then we need to work on that. And we probably need to be consistently working on that, right? If one of our the universal needs, I meant to say. So if one of our universal needs isn't met, then we probably need to be working on that. If one of our transient needs has fluctuated into a degree of importance, well, then we're going to need to deal with that. And other things can kind of move to the side as a result of that. So those are the two kind of like background categories that we don't necessarily put on the list.
Yes. I also heard you say too to make sure not to just put wants under that column.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. I want a jelly donut. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that's something that you need. A need is going to end up being something that if I don't have it, there is something deeply off about me as a person in this world. Like I'm in terms of my psyche, in terms of my ego, in terms of my core self, I'm not settled.
mhm. And it would be very interesting if a jelly donut did that to you.
Hmm.
I
It'd be
mean,
good.
yes, I doubt that your whole psyche would be off kilter if you didn't get your jelly donut.
I
Um,
find I'm alone on this. I don't find many people who like jelly donuts, but I think they're fantastic. I think they're just truly wonderful.
yeah, that's usually the one when we talk about this topic and you try to describe needs versus wants. Your example is almost always jelly donut. That's just the way
Yeah.
it goes. That's funny.
Yep.
For me, it would be like I love those like glazed with like cream filled on the inside.
Oh yeah. Well, is that like a Boston cream or?
Yeah, like those kinds. Like I'm not so much the jelly, but like the cream. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
um,
That makes sense. We're sorry, dear listener. Don't go. I don't know. Do whatever you want. The moral of the story here, this psychologist is saying, do whatever you want. That's not my actual moral.
okay. Okay, so now we know what not to put. So at this point, shall we talk about like the different kinds of needs that we could put on this list?
Yeah, so these are the personal needs. And I want you to think about these as receipts from the world, something that you get from the world. So this is an output, this is receiving. And the category here is personal needs. So something becomes a personal need if other people don't need it, but you do. It's more important to you.
Hmm.
It's something that's sort of um, not not important to other people in the way that you think about it. I have a personal need to make sure that I have time to work on personal projects and hobbies. If I don't have that, then I'm really kind of off. I don't think that's everybody's thing. Some people just don't really want or need that.
Yeah, so I suppose like some people may really need like alone time to recharge, and maybe other people that's not as important. Maybe they get their recharging from being with other people and
Yes.
interaction with other people. So that could be a more of a personal need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe somebody just needed time to stare at finches or grow blueberry bushes or something of that nature. And for whatever reason, that's their thing. It's not other people's thing, and they need that. Now we could meta categorize that and sort of say, well, everybody needs time to
Mhm.
focus on the things that are important to them. But we're trying to contextualize. Like there's specific things in your world that are important to you, and we want to know what those are.
Yeah. I work with artists often. And so I can imagine for a personal need for an artist would be like time creating. Like if you are not spending time just making things um, throughout the week, the month, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel deprived. You're going to feel depleted of your life source.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other way that personal needs can come to be personal needs is that it is kind of a universal need or a foundational need, if you will, but it's just more important to you than it is to other people. So I mentioned the one for sexual safety, for instance. If someone has had, we all need sexual safety, but if somebody has had a sexual assault in their past, then that dial just gets turned up. It is kind of more important for you. And
Yeah.
by important, I mean it's like more of a focus of your life. It's more of a thing that you're going to notice. It's more of a thing that you'll worry about in an anticipatory sense. So this becomes more of a foundational thing. This comes up very often in working with trans folks is people being trans inclusive and gender affirming is important for all of us,
Hmm.
but it is far more important if that's been threatened in either yourself or your community or your past. And so that person is more likely to sort of pursue environments in which they get that, and they're doing that for a very particular reason to get this very particular need met, because it's more important to them than it is for other people. I, as a white cis het male, can walk into most settings and my gender is affirmed. It's part of my privilege. But another person doesn't have that, so they have to think about it more than I do. So we got three kinds of needs here. We have those universal, everyday needs. Everybody needs them. Foundational needs. We've got the transient needs, the Sims needs. I gotta pee, I gotta eat, I gotta sleep. Things like that. Bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy. And then we have these personal needs, which are going to be something that's just more important to you than it is to other people, either because it's a specific thing that you need and they don't, or it's a specific thing that everybody needs that we just turned the dial up on.
Right. So I guess in writing down these personal needs question, should these needs be more about things that are in our control to satisfy for ourselves? Like, I can control whether I go work on my hobby for 2 hours. I can control whether I sit and paint. Or can we put down needs that, like, things that we need from other people that, like, we can't necessarily, like, give to ourselves, if that makes sense?
It does. Give me an example, though, if you could.
Well, I guess you already kind of mentioned, like sexual safety. We can't really necessarily give that to ourselves. It requires another human being respectful and mindful of our boundaries and creating a safe space for us. So yeah, I guess maybe I answered my own question.
Yeah, I think that in any given moment, if we kind of generally categorize these things, then we'll know better what to do relative to the moment, because the moment's going to kind of provide us the context. We know what the need is. Now we have the context. And so we need to make choices that help us to approximate, get closest to that particular need. So if it's in a dating context, we may be going on more out and about dates than at home dates for a little while. And we don't go over to the person's house as early in the dating sequence because this is really important to us. So we're on date 5 or 6 and you get the invite over and you just say, I don't know if I'm quite ready for that. Like, you'd be more likely to set a boundary there. Maybe you even communicate why. I just really want to take things slow physically, stuff like that. But you make that move because you have this need. So it's how you end up kind of showing up in the world as a result of the thing that you need.
Got you. So there are things that you can do on your end, in accordance to that need, even if it's something that you would need from the other person ultimately.
Absolutely.
Another question, because I find in working with clients when we're going through goals, needs, and values, sometimes clients struggle with whether to put certain things in the needs category or the values category. So, like, for instance, like exercise. The client really values being physically fit, moving their body, really important to them. But on the other hand, they could see themselves putting it in the needs category because, especially if they're a really avid, like, runner, for instance, like, if they haven't gone on a run in a week or so, they feel it. Like, so I'm curious your thoughts on that.
So in that way, I think they probably need support from others, especially in terms of maybe time, or even perhaps I'm thinking about one person whose running need is really about social support. If I'm running a big race, I kind of want you to be there. And not want, let me not be sloppy with my language. If I'm running a big race, then I kind of need you to be there. And I'm really going to be off if you're not. So if in that case, there is kind of a social support need. I need people to support the things that are important to me. If we
Mm.
frame it that way, I bet you it's far bigger than exercise. If this person was graduating, getting a diploma, etc., well, then I bet you that same need would show up in that different context. So you sort of need to zoom out. Exercise is a thing that you mean to do in your life. And
Yeah.
so we don't want to be framing that as something that the world needs to do for us. It's a thing that I need to do for myself. It's output. So it's much more a value of a way that I mean to live.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Um, I guess underneath they could also put like, I also need time to run
Right.
in my day, whether that's in the morning or in the evening. And yeah, so I need time carved out for that.
Which we
Okay.
may be able to meta categorize all of that into I need well maybe okay, so I need support for the things that are important to me. Sometimes that's time and sometimes that's presence.
Presence. Uh-huh. Okay, I love that. That's a good way to sort of differentiate the two categories. Um, yeah. Any other thoughts on this needs category and what's important to put there?
I think in general with all of these things, it's not that big of a deal if you end up putting it in the wrong spot. It's more of a big deal if you end up kind of struggling to articulate what ultimately is actually important to you. And the only thing that I would suggest on that front too is to generalize as much as possible. The more specific we're being, the more we're struggling to see the forest rather than the trees.
How can that be detrimental to be too specific?
You're just missing yourself and you'll fail to understand what's happening to you. Because what'll happen is if these needs aren't met, you're going to feel something. And when you feel something deep within you, that is going to kind of, if it's unexplained, you don't really know what to do with it. So you've got this big feeling and I can't explain where it's coming from, so I don't really know what to do with it. But if I can generalize and follow more of the principled approach, then when that feeling rises, I can better see where it's coming from. Oh, this need isn't really, I'm not addressing this need in the ways that I need to address this
Mm.
need. And that's why I'm starting to feel this thing and what I might be able to do about it. Slash, the other thing that we can do is sometimes you're feeling something because a need has been addressed too much. So it's too much of this one and not enough of that one. And so it's really just sort of off balance.
Mm-hmm. I think of the different ways that we can use this goals, needs, and values list. I always tell clients, like, this is the list you go to when you're about to make a big decision. Is this in alignment with what I'm trying to do here? And specifically with the needs category, it's like, okay, when I'm planning out my schedule, okay, am I carving out time? Like for you, Adam, it would be, time working on these hobbies that you have. And so I think that's how it can be really helpful. And then also what you're saying too is like, okay, if I'm feeling really off, if I'm feeling unfulfilled, go back to that list and see what parts you're neglecting, what needs you're neglecting. It can be a really like helpful reference for you.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime there is a big feeling, we want to go back to that list. It's coming from somewhere on that list. That list of the goals, the needs, and the values is your best articulation of how you mean to live your life. So if you're feeling something big, chances are it's on that list somewhere.
Yeah.
Perhaps hidden in the transient or
Universal.
universal needs category. Perhaps it's kind of one of the implied categories, but it's on there somewhere.
So powerful.
Yeah.
All right. New quote on the board. Fatalism is mysticism. Okay, I have no idea. Those are some big words that I don't know, Adam. I really don't.
I think the idea here is if we start getting really fatalistic, like it's all going to go bad, everything's going to be terrible, etc., so on, you're kind of soothsaying. You're being a little bit mystical. You're telling a story about the future as if you can tell what the future is, and you don't know what the future is. Plus, Fatalism assumes bad outcomes, but what counts as a bad outcome is a matter of perspective. So as a result, it's valuable to slow the fuck down with the idea that you know what's going to happen or what it's going to mean to you when it happens.
Yes, it would be great if we could look into a crystal ball and know what's going to happen, but we don't have that capability. Maybe some of us are psychic, but the majority of us, not so much. And I think a lot of us do tend to go to the catastrophizing of what's going to happen. And that seems more, for some reason, for people, that seems more plausible that like the bad outcomes are going to happen than the really good outcomes are going to happen. I feel like a lot of us don't go to everything's going to work out so great and even better than I imagined. That doesn't, for some reason, that doesn't seem as plausible for people as the it's all going to go to shit.
Well, humans have a negativity bias baked
Right.
into us, and this has been demonstrated. We tend to view risk of loss far more than opportunity for gain. There's a classic probability problem that demonstrates this. Okay, I say to you, I'm going to flip this coin. If you agree, I'm going to flip this coin. Heads, you give me $100. Tails, I give you $200. Do you take that bet?
Yes, because if I get tails, then it's more money than I would be losing if I got heads.
Yeah. What if I made it 1,000, 2,000?
Oh,
What if I made it 10,000, 20,000?
well, I think this depends also on the person's financial circumstances that's
Exactly. But
taking the bet.
notice that the question changes as a result of the dollar amount that I set.
Yeah, it's more risky as you go up.
Not exactly. It's the same in probability terms. It is the exact same risk. Yes.
Yes, but me sitting here as Allie right now in the socioeconomic class that I'm in, me losing $100 is not as risky as me losing 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 and so
But the
on.
benefit on the other side would be so that's the negativistic bias. That's the risk aversion that we all come with, right? It's like I think in terms of loss instead of in terms of gain. So that I mean,
Okay.
technically, it is always a good bet to take a bet like that
Mhm.
because the gains are so much higher.
Higher
If
than
you
the loss.
always took that bet at a 50-50 probability, then you would come out ahead.
Yes, that's true. I was thinking in terms of loss versus in terms of gain when I was deciding whether to take the bet.
And we all do that all the time.
How interesting. Well, Adam, this has been a riveting conversation, and I hope this can help people as they're going through their goals, needs, and values list. If you haven't done so, we really encourage you to do so. It's very important. Like, I think of so often like how many people are just going through life without any clear path of what they mean to do with their life, and just how much more powerful and purposeful it can feel to have North Stars in your life. Um, that's what I think
Absolutely.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, if you are interested in working with us, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's delvepsych.com for a free consultation call. And please do check out our blog at delvepsych.substack.com. Until next time, see ya.